Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. As far as those who are on the Eastern time, good morning. And those who are on other times in the United States and Canada, it may be still possibly morning as well, before 12 p.m. As far as those of our brothers and sisters worldwide, then good afternoon. Some places or locations, perhaps good evening. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless each and every one of you. I pray that you guys will all see the blessed month of Ramadan. Allahumma ameen. And I pray that each and every one of you will have the necessary patience dealing with the realities of COVID-19 this Ramadan. It's going to be a very different Ramadan for each and every one of us. Very challenging. And we have to be patient, inshallah. We have to be grateful for whatever Allah Azza wa Jal gives us. Hopefully our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated, who are locked up, regardless of the reason why they're incarcerated, regardless of the reason, those brothers and sisters who are locked up, may Allah make things manageable for them. May Allah make their struggle a struggle that's easy and bearable. All right? The fitna of Ramadan, the test of Ramadan outside of prison, let alone in prison, let alone being a captive of war, political prisoner, being tortured, being humiliated, having your religion made fun of, you being made fun of, being forced to eat and drink certain things, to do certain things. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. The difficulties of Ramadan in incarceration, regardless of the reason behind the incarceration. May Allah make it easy for the Muslims. And a Muslim is a Muslim no matter what. A Muslim is a Muslim no matter what. And as long as a Muslim is a Muslim, no matter what he or she does, and someone takes them to justice, someone takes them to authority or punishment that is not the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter what, it's not Allah's ruling, it's not Allah's justice, then that's obviously extremely problematic for a Muslim to accept. Say a Muslim being tortured and punished, humiliated, made fun of, and a person says, oh, well, he shouldn't have done this, or he shouldn't have said this, or that's what he gets. How can you say something like that? How can you be a Muslim and lack empathy, lack sympathy for your brother, regardless of what they did or what they're accused of doing? That's another thing. We don't know when it comes to the news, when it comes to media, that which is factual. All right, we don't know. Allahu alam. All right, just be mindful of that, guys. So don't forget your brothers and sisters locked up in the slammer and the bing and the can. All right, inshallah ta'ala, make dua for them, a special dua for them to have firmness, for them to have patience. If they've done wrong, for them to make the proper tawbah, and the tawbah that is to Allah, and only to Allah, the Mighty and the Most High. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. Tayyib, the Muslims who are sick, if you are sick with COVID-19, you got over it, you recovered. If you're suffering from, seasonal allergies, cancer, diabetes, our sisters with breast cancer, brothers with prostate cancer, lung cancer, throat cancer, all right? May Allah make things easy as well, manageable as well. Many Muslims around the world suffer from diabetes for one reason or another, whether it's genetic, whether it's because of someone's bad eating habits, dietary habits, whatever the case may be. May Allah make things easy for them. Muslims having to do dialysis, taking insulin and things like this, all right? Your health, you don't realize how valuable it is and how precious it is until it's taken away from you or until it is compromised. It may not be taken away from you 100%, but it's not what it used to be, all right? So all of the different Muslims with special conditions, special circumstances, that are out of the ordinary, I want all of the brothers and sisters, inshallah, to make dua for them and just be mindful. Just think about it. Put yourself in that person's shoes, right? Being locked up, iftar, suhoor, All right, how difficult is it sometimes with regards to being outside with good health, making iftar, going to sleep, waking up, prayer, fasting, being thirsty, working. All right, so just think about being in jail. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Khairan, inshallah. We'll take a few questions if possible. Bi'idhnillah, if possible. And before then, we'd like to give some fawaid from Tahdhib Madarij al-Salikin, summarized version of Madarij al-Salikin of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala. And he mentions one of the most important aspects and one of the most important chapters of the book. He says, وَمِن مَنَازِلِ إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ مَنْزِلَةُ الْمَحَبَّةِ وهذه المنزلة التي فيها تنافس المتنافسون وإليها شخص العاملون وإلى عالمها شمر السابقون وعليها تفادى المحبون إلى آخره. He mentions here about loving Allah and the different manifestations, different depths, different dimensions of that verse, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And from those dimensions, from those levels and stages and stations, is manzilatul mahabba, is the station of Allah's love. And or you loving Allah. Allah loving you, you loving Allah. And we know as Muslims that our aqidah, what we believe in our hearts, what we know is that Allah loves and Allah is loved. We love Allah, the creation loves Allah, and Allah Azza wa Jal, He loves His servants. All right? So when we talk about how to obtain Allah's love specifically, because Allah is generous, He's kind to all of us. But how do I know that Allah loves me? Allah can give me blessings, but doesn't mean that He loves me. Allah blesses me with things, doesn't mean that He loves me. Okay, and how much time and attention we spend on obtaining the love of created beings, celebrities, actors, movie stars, basketball players, rappers, singers, da'is, imams, sheikhs, husbands, wives, children. Does my stepson, does my stepdaughter love me? Do they even like me? We chase around these things, okay? My husband, does he love me or does he like me or whatever the case may be? But when we sit down and we reflect, we need to ask ourselves, does Allah love me? And how can I determine that? How can I gauge that? Is it even possible? Is it even possible? How to obtain Allah's love? How to obtain Allah's love and how to maintain Allah's love? Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentioned 10 reasons behind this. We've done classes on this before. It's on the channel. So we'll just mention them here in the summarized version. The 10 ways of obtaining Allah Azza wa Jal's love. It says here, كيف تتعلم المحبة? How do you learn the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do you know about it and learn about it? That's what it says in the heading in the summarized version. في الأسباب الجالبة للمحبة والموجبة لها وهي 10. 10 reasons. 10 things. 10 ways of obtaining Allah's love. Number 1, he says, قراءة القرآن بالتدبر والتفهم لمعانيه وما أريد به. First step is reading the Quran. Reflecting on the Quran and getting to the point that Allah wants you to get to. Ma urida bihi. What does Allah want from the story of Thamud, from the story of Ad, from the battle of Badr, from the battle of Uhud, this place, this story? What was meant by this ayah? So that's the first step. Ibn al-Qayyim does not mention the first step of obtaining Allah's love is what sex you are, male or female. He doesn't mention how black your skin is, how white your skin is. Ibn al-Qayyim, he doesn't mention how tall you are, tall and thin, or short and stocky. Ibn al-Qayyim, he doesn't mention how much money you got in the bank, how much money you got under your doghouse, how much money in your Timberland or Nike box. He doesn't mention what projects you come from, what block you come from, what part of the city you come from, what borough you come from. He doesn't mention that. He doesn't mention what sheikh you know and who you're associated with and what masjid you go to and who's your friend on social media. He likes me, Fulan knows me, Fulan has mentioned me, and the likes. He mentions none of these things that we're caught up on and stuck up on. Who knows me, where I'm from, what I look like, what tribe I come from, what family does it come from. The stuff that we're caught up on. Ibn al-Qayyim mentions none of them first and foremost. He says it is Allah's words, the Quran al-Kareem, the book of Allah. How much of it you read, memorize, know, reflect upon, a proper tafsir, etc. That's the first step of getting Allah's love, is reflecting on the Quran. You loving Allah more by reading His words more, understanding His words more, having a proper comprehension of His words more. How does Allah love you? The rewards that you get for reading the Quran and getting and drawing closer to Him through His words. الثاني, number 2, التقرب إلى الله بالنوافل بعد الفرائض فإنها توصله إلى درجة المحبوبية أو كذا بعد المحبة. الله أعلم. الله أعلم. It says here, number 2 is getting closer to Allah by doing recommended acts. بعد الفرائض, after the mandatory acts. Not neglecting the mandatory acts and then doing the recommended acts. Fasting the days of Shawwal, you haven't fasted Ramadan. Praying this extra prayer, you haven't made the 5 daily prayers. Giving this money, paying this type of sadaqah, you haven't made your zakah. Taking care of this person, that person, you don't take care of your own family, and the list goes on. So the fard first. After the fard, you can't suffice yourself with just the fard. You got to do extra prayers, extra fasting, extra sadaqah, extra dhikr. After you made the mandatory dhikr and the prayer. All right? And this is very applicable to the month of Ramadan now. You did the responsibilities, now do the extra fasting, do the extra iftars, the extra suhoor, so on and so forth. Fund it, support it, whatever you can. All right? So that's how you get Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love. He says the second reason is getting and drawing yourself. And that shows you that there's effort that has to be made. At-taqarrub. You have to draw yourself, push yourself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the medium is the recommended acts, the nawafil. الثالث دوام ذكره على كل حال باللسان والقلب والعمل والحال. طيب, he says here فنصيبه من المحبة على قدر نصيبه من هذا الذكر. He says here is always mentioning Him, always mentioning Allah's name in all states and all circumstances, whatever, with your heart, with your tongue, and or so on and so forth. We've mentioned before with regards to the levels of dhikr of Allah, what's best, heart and tongue at the same time. Can you make it with just the tongue, with just the heart, etc.? He says, so mention Allah all of the time. And Allah, you will get Allah's love. Allah will love you. You'll love Allah, inshallah ta'ala. Allah will love you based off of how much you mention Him. It's just that simple. Think about a person that you love so much. You always talk about. You always want to read their messages. You look at their pictures. They're always on your mind, day and night, right? Just think about that. Moving forward. الرابع إيثار محابه على محابك عند غلبات الهوى والتسنم إلى محابه وإن صعب المرتقى. The fourth reason is that when there's a fight and when there's a struggle, when it comes to your desires, your whims, what you want, permissible or not, and permissible, it doesn't have to be haram, but your hawa, what you want, and what Allah wants, what Allah loves, putting it above and beyond that which you love and that which you want. Even when there's, he says, ghalabat al-hawa, a struggle, a fight, someone grabs you, chokes you up. It's a fight, a street fight, all right? Not some type of movie or some type of fantasy cartoon, but an actual rough, rugged street fight, a knuckle, all right? Somebody walks up to you in the streets, pushes you in the corner, does some type of harm, huh? A rough street fight, all right? Ghalabat, you're fighting with your nafs now. Do I do it? Do I leave it alone? It's a struggle. And you force yourself to put forth what Allah loves. Allah Azza wa Jal in return will love you. After that, he says here, الخامس مطالعة القلب لأسمائه وصفاته ومشاهدتها ومعرفتها وتقلبه في رياض هذه المعرفة وميادينها فمن عرف الله بأسمائه وصفاته وأفعاله أحبه لا محالة. Number 5 is having your mind, your heart come across Allah's names and attributes. The meanings of Allah's names and attributes. What's meant, the secrets, the dimensions of these Asma al-Husna and these Sifat al-Ula. Allah's beautiful names and perfect attributes. What they mean, how they're manifested in your life, the different examples that you can give. Allah hears, He sees, He loves, He hates, He gives, He takes. All of Allah's names and attributes. You just reflect on them and think about them. He says, and letting your heart and under your mind float around and just, the concept of, he says, mayadiniha, the gardens of these meanings. Let your heart, let your mind get lost in these gardens. Studying, reflecting Allah's names and Allah's attributes. How merciful Allah is. I was here, I was locked up, I was in this situation, I wasn't a Muslim, I was doing bad, I was doing this, I was kada, and I got out of it. How did I get out of it? It was miraculous, against all odds. Think about that, ponder on that. He says, whoever knows Allah and understands His names and His attributes, he's going to love Him. And this goes to show us is that the foundation is knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. That's the foundation, ilm. And people who don't love Allah because they're ignorant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Moving forward. السادس مشاهدة بره وإحسانه وآلائه ونعمه الباطنة والظاهرة فإنها داعية إلى محبته. Number 6 is reflecting and pondering on Allah's goodness towards you, Allah's magnificence, Allah, how much of a benefactor He is to you, what He gives you, what He has given you, what He has promised to give you. Just think about that, huh? Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward, he says here, السابع وهو من أعجبها انكسار القلب بكليته بين يدي الله تعالى وليس في التعبير عن هذا المعنى غير الأسماء والعبارات. Number 7, and he considers this to be from the most marvelous things, from the strangest things, all right? And that is being and declaring yourself broken in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Determining and declaring yourself to be broken. Inkisarul qalb, my heart is broken. Not in front of my husband or my wife or my friend or this one or that one, but it's broken in front of Allah. I have no strength, I have no power, I'm weak, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm hurt, I'm injured. Oh Allah, help me. You get on your knees, you beg, you cry in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says here, and there aren't any words. There's nothing that we can do to realize this except for words and phrases. That's all we have is words and phrases. The true core essence can't be expressed by the tongue. He says, الثامن الخلوة به وقت النزول الإلهي لمناجاته وتلاوة كلامه والوقوف بالقلب والتأدب بأدب العبودية بين يديه ثم ختم ذلك بالاستغفار والتوبة. First and foremost, he says here, is to mention Allah. Is to mention Allah, to reflect or to read His words. He says, call out to Him, invoke Him, and supplicate to Him at the time of His descent. Al-Nuzul al-Ilahi. The Prophet ﷺ tells us in the authentic hadith that there is a time out of the night, towards the wee hours of the night, the late part of the night, Yanzilu Rabbuna, our Lord descends. And our Lord, He asks questions. Who calls on me? فَأَسْتَجِيبَ لَهُ, so I can answer him. مَنْ يَسْتَغْفِرُنِي فَأَغْفِرَ لَهُ, who seeks my forgiveness so I can forgive him. مَنْ يَسْأَلُنِي فَأُعْتِيَ, who asks of me that I may endow and give him my gifts. So the concept of what we believe about Allah and His names and His attributes, and the reality of what the Prophet ﷺ tells us about, and from that is al-waqt, or it says al-nuzul al-ilahi, this time in which Allah Azza wa Jal descends, and Allah calls out to His servants, and He asks His servants. He says limunajatihi, to have an intimate conversation with Allah, call out to Allah, speak to Allah. What tilaw, he says, and reading His words, reading His words. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, having one's heart in the proper state, the proper respect as a servant in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and finishing your night, finishing this encounter here with tawbah and istighfar, asking Allah for His forgiveness. التاسع مجالسة المحبين الصادقين والتقاط أطايب ثمرات كلامهم كما تنتقي أطايب الثمر ولا تتكلم إلا إذا تراجعت مصلحة الكلام وعلمت أن فيه مزيدا لحالك أو مريدا لحالك ومنفعة لغيرك. طيب, Number 9, he says, is sitting with the true lovers of Allah. Those who truly love Allah. Of course, how do you know who truly loves Allah? You can gauge it, you can estimate it. Only Allah knows what's in the heart. But there are signs, and you can make calculations. Sitting with them. He says here, and taking the best of what they say. They're sweet words, they're beautiful words, they're beneficial words. Just like you pick sweet, fresh fruits, ripe fruits. He says, and avoid speaking unless there is a benefit in you speaking. Don't talk. When you're sitting with these people, don't talk. Look how beautiful these words are. Empty your cup. Shut up. There's no need for you to talk right now. Just sit in the class and learn. Sit with this wise old person and soak up the wisdom. Sit with this person and just, sometimes you don't have to talk. Somebody that you may love. You can just sit with that person. Just enjoy each other's company. It's no need to talk all of the time. Unless, he says, تَرَجَّحَتْ مَصْلَحَةُ الْكَلَامِ. There's a benefit in you talking. Of you guys coming closer, you're learning, you're benefiting, giving advice, enjoying the good, forbidding the evil. You have that relationship, labas. And if that's not the case, he says, then speak. So something that's going to help you and something that's going to help others. When it helps you and helps others, no problem in speaking, no problem in talking. Al-ashir, muba'adat kulli sababin yuhulu bayna al-qalbi wa bayna Allahi azza wa jalla. He says here, the 10th and final way is to stay away from and to avoid anything that will hinder your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that can come between you and Allah and loving Him and one's heart being connected with Allah, stay away from it. Eating from the haram, slandering people, cursing people, sitting with wretched people, whatever it may be, avoiding that thing. Allah surely knows best. These are definitely words of wisdom from Ibn al-Qayyim. May Allah have mercy upon his soul. Let's see if we can answer a few questions if we have the time, inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless each and every one of you. I send my salams back to everyone in general. Brother Ismail, I'm fine. Alhamdulillah, jazakallahu khairan. Thank you very much for asking. Mr. O'Donnell, is it permissible to have a shaved beard? Guys, mention your name, please, or your initials. If you don't want to mention your name, that's fine. Your initials, your state, your city, your country, and your province. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan. Abu Hunayfa, alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. May Allah bless you in Singapore. I mean, inshallah, you guys are staying firm out there. Keep learning the sunnah, keep teaching it, keep being gentle. Be gentle with the people. Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah ta'ala, and others are quoted to have said, "Tarafaqu ya ahl sunnah fa innakum aqallu nas." This is very scary effort here. They would say, "Oh, people of the sunnah, be gentle, for indeed you are the minority. You are aqallu nas. You're the minority." Some say that Hassan al-Basri said this, and other tabi'een. That was in the time of the Salaf Salih. The people of the sunnah are the minority. So think about it in 2020. Singapore, Islam, Muslims trying to follow the correct way, not extreme, not zealots, not here, there, trying to follow the middle path. Be gentle, be merciful. That's my advice to the Muslims in Singapore, and Allah knows best. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Khair inshallah. BTT from, it says NH from London, UK, is one sinful for trimming the beard. We've spoken on this before. Don't trim your beard unless you do the qabda. The only two opinions that are correct, according to what we believe and Allah knows best, is a long discussion about the beard, a very long discussion about the beard, is you either let it go long, leave it as it is, or you trim that which exceeds the fistful. As far as shaping it up and trimming it up and touching it up and grooming it up, la. Wallahu alam. RA from Edmonton, Canada. I'm struggling with we've done that already. RA from Edmonton, Canada. Advice for me studying on Arabic for advice from his teacher. Can he add on to that without his teacher knowing? You sit with your teacher. If your teacher tells you not to touch anything else, don't touch anything else. As far as if your teacher gives you a curriculum, books, he tells you to memorize things, and you do that, and it doesn't interfere with his work and the responsibility towards him, not bad, so you're free. But the moment it's a strain, the moment you come to the teacher's class, you're tired, you didn't have enough time to memorize it because of someone else's class, Now that's a problem. But you, yourself, as a student, you're supposed to take and benefit. Wallahu alam. Alhamdulillah, nahnu bi khair, Caliph Basha, barakallahu feek. FA Michigan USA, how should we help the poor people during this lockdown? Wouldn't they die because they're homeless and they might die? Help out the poor. If we read Juz Amma, we find verse after verse. Juz Tabarak, the first Juz that you memorize and you learn and you study. It'amul miskin, feeding the poor. Fakku raqabatin, it'amun. Allah mentions this. Fi yawmin dhi masghaba. Okay? Hardships, times, people being hungry and starving. Feed, give food. There's no doubt about that. And it's no different. Rather, in 2020, it's easier to feed someone. You can deliver food to somebody. You can cash app someone. You can send people sadaqah. It's very simple, very easy, much easier than when it was in the past. Wallahu alam. Abu Saeed, how's he doing? I know it works for the transit system. May Allah protect him, his family. I mean, may Allah guide that brother. I mean, Abu Saeed. Next question. That's in Melbourne, Australia. Is it considered a bid'ah if someone always says the shahada repeatedly when approaching the salah and immediately after the salah? It could possibly become bid'ah if you keep doing it as if it's a specific ritual, as if it's a specific religious ritual before and after. As far as if you just want to make the kalima of tawheed, I said the kalima of tawheed, la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an, so on and so forth, one thing. But the moment you do it in which it takes the place of the sunnah, and it looks like the sunnah and imitates the sunnah, and you do it religiously over and over, the same before, after, there lies no doubt you're treading upon the path of mukhalafa that is leading to the path of bid'ah. There's no question about that. We have to understand something about bid'ah, guys. And one of the most important ways of understanding when an act becomes a bid'ah is that it imitates the sunnah. Something that does not imitate the sunnah is not like something that imitates the sunnah, in which a person sees it and hears it and thinks and feels and believes that that is the sunnah. And the scholars, they say it tahul mahal sunnah. It takes the place of it. It buds out and it pushes and it moves out the other recommended acts, because you're saying this other act which was originally permissible. It was originally permissible to say this, the kalima of tawheed. Who doesn't want to say that? But it now takes the place of the specific dhikr, the adhkar that the Prophet used to make and taught us to make. Now that's a problem. Wallahu alam. Question says, from AB Tangier, Morocco, what is the ruling on studying at France for us in Morocco, as when one gets a degree here, there's little or no chance of getting a job? The concept of going to a non-Muslim country, living there, studying there, so on and so forth, some of those issues are clearly problematic. However, if it's a need or a necessity, it's a hardship, hardship demands facilitation. Hardship demands facilitation, let alone if it's a necessity, durura. Wallahu alam. But if you're going to go to any place, studying, whatever type of university, just khud al-hadar. Be careful and be cautious. Try your best to have good friends, to have good company. Try your best to always be connected to Allah. Make dua for Allah to protect you and keep you safe. Wallahu alam. UA London, what should an aspiring student of knowledge focus on in Ramadan? Should it be Arabic and Quran only, or should they focus on seeking knowledge too? I don't think that knowledge should be abandoned in the month of Ramadan. I don't hold that view. Rather, knowledge is ibadah, rather from the best, if not the best ibadah to make. So how can you say leave it off in Ramadan and only focus on the ibadah? Ilm is not an ibadah. Focusing on the Quran, the prayers, this and that, of course, i'tikaf. But then doing that, that's ilm. You learn about i'tikaf. You learn about the fiqh fasting. You learn about tarawih. You teach it to others. So never ever allow your sword to become dull. And never allow your blade to become rusty. Wallahu alam. Question says, AG Clump, so how is it haram to sue a company that has wronged you? No, it's not. MF Staten Island, New York. Sound like one who's ruling someone who's not fasting Ramadan. Does he feed a person for the entire month, or does he feed a person per day through the month? However you do it, as long as you make up every day for a poor person, all at once, or you do it every day. Wallahu alam. AR Philly USA, please. What is the proper way of determining the direction of prayer when traveling? Well, it depends on what's available to you. If you know how to use the natural way, quote unquote natural way, the sky, the shadow, things like this, then use that. If you can't, then use a trustworthy compass, an accurate compass. Alhamdulillah, most cars today, they have compasses in the car. Most phones, okay, maybe you can use an analog compass and a digital compass. Use both. If one is off, inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu alam. Tell you, may Allah preserve all you guys. CB from College Park, Maryland. The person says the true story of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about Jews and Jewish people. Isn't this a statement of kufr? I don't understand that question with regards to Jews and Jews. FA London, UK, nikah and Selena during Ramadan encouraged. Walima? There's nothing wrong with getting married in Ramadan. That's fine. That's fine. That's halal. That's tayyib. There are narrations about marriage not being delayed. So if it's time to get married and it's in Ramadan, bismillah, so be it. Now one may say, well, it's going to busy you from ibadah, it's going to take you away from ibadah, you're fasting. Not necessarily. Rather, you going to your wife is ibadah. As the Prophet ﷺ says, when you sleep with your wife is a sadaqah. Wallahu alam. SH from Cairo, Egypt. Inshallah, I'm assuming there are hadith where the Prophet commands not to pray after Asr, but at others which say the Prophet never used to miss praying 2 rak'ah after Asr. Barakallahu fiqh. That's a long discussion among the scholars of Islam. Very long discussion with regards to Salah Dhatul Asbab or Dhatul Sabab, a specific reason why you're making a prayer during one of the times in which it's prohibited to pray. Al-Zahir, wallahu ta'ala alam, that which seems to be correct is that it is permissible to make those 2 rak'ah after Asr. Wallahu alam. There's a very long discussion with regards to those narrations. Aisha, Salama, very long discussion. Wallahu alam. A.B. Tanger, Morocco Sheikh, is it permissible to love a non-Muslim civilization's culture as many love Japanese culture with hating their religion? We've explained that before. The dunya is made for the believer, not for the disbeliever. So whatever that thing may be of the dunya, craftsmanship, some type of martial arts, some type of tea, or whatever it is, respect and value for Allah's creation, whatever it is, the Muslim deserves that more than the non-Muslim. Wallahu alam. Paris, France. Our initials says Rebel Justice. How to lower anxiety towards Allah Azza wa Jal when you figure out huge sins, kaba'ir, towards one's family that we had done, even with Tawbah, panic attacks, regrets, remorse. This is going to be a mental attack of shaitan, and there may be some issues that you may have. You may have some problems or things that you suffer from of anxiety, all right? Some type of illness or sickness that you may have. But from the spiritual aspect, shaitan is going to try to ruin you by whispering to you to make the sin, by whispering to you not making Tawbah for the sin and not leaving off the sin. You've been doing it too long, it's too much, you know you're never going to stop, etc., etc. And after you leave off the sin, you make Tawbah, he whispers to you that your Tawbah is not accepted, that you're going to relapse, the people will never forgive you, they will never treat you the same, etc., etc. Shaitan is an enemy. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Seek Allah's refuge from shaitan. He is whispering to ruin you, and he doesn't want you to be pious and be righteous. That's my advice. The specifics of dealing with anxiety, please go back to all of the classes that we've done on these issues. Wallahu alam. Tayyib. Question is Muhammad Yassin, going back Malaysia. Is enema allowed while fasting? If you don't have to get it done, you shouldn't get it done. Avoid it, inshallah ta'ala, if you don't have to, if it's not a necessity. Push it back to after iftar time or wait after Ramadan. As far as does it break the fast, then that which seems to be apparent is that breaking the fast is eating, drinking, sexual intercourse. and something that takes the place of eating and drinking. As far as something going inside of your body, that breaking your fast, wouldn't necessarily say that. Wallahu alam. Says he said that Ya'juj and Ma'juj was a tale and it misguides people isn't a statement of kufr. بطلانه يغني عن إبطاله. To say that the Quran, something from the Quran, is just a tale, there's no need for any answer regarding that. May Allah protect us from saying stuff like that. KB, Taliba from Philadelphia. What advice can you give to one on how to truly forgive and not hold any grudge or resentment in one's heart towards a person or people who wronged you? Jihad al-nafs, you got to fight yourself. It's not easy. We talk about it often, but it's not that simple. It's not that easy. Allah gives you that. So by nature, just like there's some people who are naturally more this and naturally more that, some people have a hard time to overlook those who stabbed them in the back or spoke about them or wronged them. You have to fight your nafs. You have to make jihad al-nafs, and if you don't fight your soul, and if you just allow it to just wallow and rot in its natural ways, at best you're going to be complacent. At best, let alone actually plummeting and falling lower. So you got to fight your nafs. Ask Allah to soften your heart. Ask Allah to break that steam, that vengeance, that spite, that venom that you have. And look towards how many times Allah has pardoned you. How many times you violated Allah's rights. How many times you went against Allah's rules and His commandments. And Allah still pardons you, still forgives you, still hasn't punished you. Wallahu alam. Tayyib. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. All of our brothers and sisters from Bosnia, everyone else. Ian, Melbourne, Australia. Mufti, what condition should a Muslim meet, or to what point should a Muslim's knowledge of deen reach for him not to be classified as a layman anymore? I don't think that there's a specific amount of knowledge. I think it's about the mindset, and we've explained this many times before. Mindset. It's all about the mindset. You consider yourself to be a talib al-ilm, you behave like a talib al-ilm, inshallah, that's what you'll be, even if you don't know that much. And if you consider yourself to be just a lackey, Sheikh Fulan said it, Brother Fulan says it, who am I to think? Just follow this scholar, listen to this person, then you're a layman, even if you know a lot, even if you've memorized a lot, even if you graduated from Medina. Listen to my words. You're a Medina graduate, and you just tag along and follow this one. Why should I think if Sheikh Fulan said it? Why should I think if Brother Fulan said it? Brother Fulan hasn't went to Medina. He didn't go to Medina. He didn't study anywhere. And I'm going to follow him and obey him and blindly follow him and take what he says. Then you are an ammi, even if you have a Medina certificate. Wallahu alam. AA from London. Let's see here. I think we got lost. Tayyib. Mufti, where can I find how the Prophet prayed Tarawih? The same place that you find how the Prophet ﷺ made the other prayers in the books of Hadith, Kutub Sunnah, inshallah ta'ala. Hey, from London, Mufti, the night prayer, when Allah descent, how do we pray? How many rak'ah? You make the rak'ah that the Prophet ﷺ made. 8, inshallah ta'ala. 3 witr. And also the 2 after Salat al-Isha. Some narrations say 13 altogether. A narration of Aisha, inshallah. If you want to make less, that's fine. If you want to make more, there's certain scholars, they allow that as well. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Waladun, can someone please mention the name of the book Ustad is reading from? Please mention where you're coming from, inshallah ta'ala. We mentioned it's Tahdheeb Madarij al-Salikin. Tahdheeb Madarij al-Salikin. You can find the book in any bookstore, inshallah, in a PDF. Australia, SN Melbourne. Can one pray 8 rak'ats of Tarawih with his family and then pray 3 rak'at witr on the last third of the night by themselves? Or is it better to pray the whole 11 rak'at together? That's fine. Labas. Inshallah ta'ala. If you feel confident that you're going to wake up and get up, labas. But don't deprive your family from the witr as well, inshallah, from time to time. Allahu alam. Mufti, what advice can you give to one who wants to ask his mom about the truth of his father? Be right to the point. Direct. No need to beat around the bush. Sit down and ask her, Umi, I want to talk to you. I have a serious question. Bismillah. No introduction needed. Wallahu alam. May Allah bless all of you guys as well. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. What are some good books to read about the etiquette of seeking knowledge? Many classes we've devoted just towards that. Find it on the playlist, inshallah. HG, Fontana, California. How can a Muslim generally get racism out of his heart? First step, I would say, is to accept it. To realize it, that it is a reality. And many of our, if not most of our societies are based off of racism, colorism, sexism. There's no doubt about that, whether you like it or not. Okay? So, you're from California, the United States of America. I would advise you to read about the history of California. When did California become a part of the United States? Why and how? Who lived there before it was the bear on the flag? Who were the inhabitants of California? Who were they? Mexicans, quote-unquote Indians? Who lived there? Why was California annexed into the United States from sea to shining sea? The point that I'm trying to get to is the foundation of most countries is based off of racism, colorism, racial superiority. We are better than these savages. And that is why we have the right to take the state from them, take their land from them, and make it ours. So we're bred up, we're raised upon racism. We're raised upon thinking and feeling I'm inferior because I'm black. From day one, I'm taught that I am inferior. From day one, I'm taught, whether it's directly or indirectly, that I'm better than the next person because of my background and my blood. So you have to, my advice is to just realize the reality of the world. And racism is bred in you, put in you from day one. Think about that. And realize the danger of it and the reality of it. Once you come to the surface and say, wow, that's crazy, subhanAllah. If you think about it, this cartoon is racist. This sports team is based off of racism. This constitution, this is all based off of one race toppling and standing and stampeding upon another race. Once you realize the reality of it and the depth of it, the deepness of it, everything else becomes relatively easier afterwards. Wallahu alam. Khair inshallah. HD from Fontana, California as well. What is the rule on private messaging someone of the opposite gender for the purpose of buying and selling? If it's bil ma'ruf, if it's in an honorable way, a respectable way, la bas, inshallah ta'ala. Many people, they make mistakes with regards to these different virtual transactions, texting someone of the opposite gender, speaking to someone of the opposite gender is not always haram, especially if there's a purpose. It's permissible to talk to someone of the opposite gender if there is a purpose in person. وَقُلْنَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا, let alone virtually. I'm trying to buy something. Where would the dunya be if a person says, I can never ever text or contact someone of the opposite gender online, buying and selling? Where would the dunya be? As far as not having a purpose, that's a different story. Wallahu ta'ala adam. Khairan inshallah. LS London, UK. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. How would you approach a conversation with one who strongly believes in African spirituality being our original roots and uses the accusation of Arab slavery? Clay, what do you mean by African spirituality? What do you mean by that? The worship of ancestors? Offering things to ancestors? If that's your concept or idea of African spirituality that we must be upon, then lakum dinukum waliya din. To you, you have your way, and to me is my way. Fadda. We worship spirits, ancestors, because that was the original way of the forefathers before the Arab slave traders came to Africa. Lakum dinukum waliya din. There's no need for arguing and fighting. There is no discussion to have. Period. There's nothing to talk about. We can talk about sports. You like this team, I like that team. You can talk about politics. We can talk about the UK and this and that. We can talk about all those other things. But there's nothing to discuss if you want to make shirk just because it was the way of your ancestors before the evil Arab slave traders came into your lands. It's nothing to talk about. As far as historical facts, were there atrocities made against certain people? There's no doubt about that. Mass castration of African slaves, them being mistreated, maltreated. There's no denying the facts of history. There's no doubt about that. Systematic racism, systematic colorism in the Middle East. The relationship between people who are of African ancestry and Arabian ancestry. Was Arabia once a black land? Are Arabs white and fair skinned? And the list goes on of the problems, the history. There's no denying that. You have someone who comes from Morocco, they live in the African continent, and they say, oh, these are Africans. And what are you? Aren't you live in Africa? They go and they play soccer. You have the World Cup, you have the African Cup. So they're Africans when it comes to what the other people in the world say, but they themselves don't consider themselves to be Africans. They look down upon, but it's a big, long discussion. African racism, African colorism, African tribalism, this tribe, this clan, Fulani, this one's from Somalia, Ethiopia. That's a long discussion. All right? The atrocities that humans made against each other, buying slaves, killing slaves, taking slaves, castrating slaves. The list goes on. You're going to get lost in that. All right? If you want to discuss that and study that as a student of history, alhamdulillah, la bas, know the facts. Know your history. Know where you come from. Know how empires rise and fall, etc. As far as African spirituality, worshiping gods and goddesses, calling on ancestors, then that's batil. And if the Arab, the fair-skinned, long-nosed, pointy-nosed, white Arab slave master came to Africa and enslaved my father and raped my mother and took me to the Middle East and made me a eunuch, and that's what allowed Tawheed to be in my family, then so be it. So be it. So be it. Bitter pill to swallow, so be it. If you have your freedom and I'm not a slave of any Arab, there's no difference between me being a Christian or a Muslim, whether I'm called John or Abdullah. As many researchers, they say, there's no difference. If you're following Islam or Christianity, it's a religion of a fair-skinned slave master. Mumkin, maybe. But if it came down to Tawheed and Shirk, my ancestors or the Arab slave master, I'll take the deen of the Arab slave master. No doubt about that. That Allah is one without any partner. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. And it's just that simple. So many people, they get caught up. They get caught up in the web. They get caught up in the mouse trap, the glue trap. They get stuck. The oppression that was made to the Africans, the black people, the Arabs, they hate them to this day. They look down upon them. They treat them like trash. They have no rights, so on and so forth. Maybe. But that's not the reason why you submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone without any partner. Don't be fooled by shaitan, his many tricks, his many games. Don't fall victim to shirk and kufr in the name of taking pride in your heritage and your lineage. All right? And when you study the history of slavery, my advice is to study the history of slavery with an empty cup. Empty cup, all right? Stop looking at slavery that is attached to a race or a color. There were blacks who had slaves, Africans who had slaves, kingdoms built upon slavery. People are so hypocritical when it comes to what they want to pick and choose. They talk about the ancient Egyptians. They talk about this ancient kingdom, the Mali kingdom, the Ashanti people, who you think built those people? Who you think established those kingdoms? You don't think there were no wars? There were no battles? You don't think there were no captives? You don't think there was no slavery? You don't think there was no tribal caste system? Are you that dumb? Are you that stupid? Are you that naive to just think that they're just pure-hearted and only the white people and the Arab people were the only people who took slaves and captured slaves? That the white people came on a boat and they just walked and strolled into Africa and kidnapped all the slaves? Do you think that? Do you honestly think that? Do you think those Arab traders came from the Middle East and just walked into Africa and just walked out with all of those slaves? You don't think no one cooperated with them? No one helped them? No one sold those slaves to them? No one captured those slaves? Do you honestly think that? Do you really? Are your emotions clouding your judgment that much to think that? So read history with an empty cup. Empty your cup. There were black slaves. There were Arab slaves. There were white slaves. The level of slavery, the treatment, the inhumane, the systematic, etc., etc. Those are all the issues of discussion. But slavery is a very old institution. And it is not new, and it's not specific to Arabs or the white people. Study history, study the facts, and only the facts will set you free. By the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what I would say. And with Allah is all success. Tayyib. Tayyib. Question is, Tayyib. IA from Philly, PA. On YouTube are some videos of non-Muslims going to Medina and making vlogs in Medina. What is the ruling on this? And what should the Muslim stance be in this situation? Many scholars of Islam, they say that Medina is sacred. It's a haram just like Mecca is sacred. And they are not allowed to be within the sacred boundaries of Medina, just like Mecca. Wallahu alam. FA, Michigan, USA. Is it permissible to cremate a dead body or delay the burial to cremate a body or delay the burial because of COVID-19? If it's a necessity, you do what you have to do based off of necessity. If you don't have to cremate the body, it's a difficulty, it's a hardship, don't desecrate a Muslim's body by burning it, by making it into ashes. If you have to delay the janazah, it's permissible if it's a necessity, if there's a need. If there is a need and if there is a necessity. Wallahu alam. Khair, inshallah. We want to stop here today. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless each and every one of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.